Clear your desk by noon, Devlin smirked, adjusting his tie with manicured fingers. The words struck me like a physical force, my vision narrowing to his retreating back. 20 coworkers suddenly found their computer screens fascinating as I stood frozen beside my desk. 6 years of dedication ended in 11 words. No warning, no explanation, just termination. My hands moved mechanically, gathering framed photos and the small potted succulent that had survived 3 office relocations. My brain cataloged potential reasons, the heated discussion about security protocols last week, my insistence that executives shouldn't have unlimited access to client data without verification, the fact that I'd questioned the new board member's decision to cut database maintenance budget. Security appeared at my elbow. "We'll need your access card, Miss Arroyo." As I surrendered the plastic rectangle, a notification pinged on my still active monitor. 4 client integration requests awaiting approval in the system only I fully understood. 3 weeks later, my phone rang at midnight. The number displayed made my heart accelerate. "Linnea," the CEO's voice cracked with desperation. "We made a terrible mistake." Before I watch more of this story, I have to know if you've ever been underestimated at work or had your expertise taken for granted. If you have, hit that like button, because what happens next shows exactly how to turn disrespect into the ultimate professional redemption. My name is Linnea Arroyo, and until 3 weeks ago, I was the Senior Solutions Architect at TechVance Industries, a position I'd worked towards since joining the company after graduating with my computer science degree. I'd never been the loudest voice in meetings or the person with the most impressive resume. What I brought was meticulous attention to detail and an ability to see connections others missed. When I joined TechVance, their client management system was a fragmented disaster: spreadsheets, email folders, and disconnected databases that resulted in constant miscommunications and lost opportunities. Nobody asked me to fix it. I simply started building something better during lunch breaks and late evenings, creating a comprehensive architecture that connected every client touchpoint into a seamless, secure system. By year 2, executives noticed the Midwest regional office was outperforming all others in client retention. That was when Devlin Mercer swooped in as my direct manager, presenting my prototype system to the board as a company-wide solution. I didn't mind. I believed in the work, not the credit. "Can you scale this nationally?" the CEO asked in my first ever executive meeting. "Yes," I answered, "but I'll need a team." They gave me 5 junior developers and an impossible deadline. We worked weekends and holidays, building a proprietary system that eventually linked contract details, communication histories, and negotiation points for over 8,000 high-value clients across 17 countries. Client retention improved by 42% within 9 months. The system required specific access sequences and verification protocols that I designed after 3 data breaches at competitor firms. These weren't arbitrary complications. They were necessary safeguards for information worth millions. As the system became essential to operations, I repeatedly requested time to properly document its architecture. "Later," Devlin would say, waving away my concerns. "Focus on immediate priorities." Then came the cuts. First 2 junior developers during strategic restructuring, then another during operational streamlining. The 4th departed during efficiency optimization. Each time, I absorbed their workload while continuing to enhance the system, working 60-hour weeks while Devlin presented my innovations at industry conferences. I created tickets requesting documentation time every quarter. Each was marked non-critical and pushed to the next planning cycle. Last month, the final member of my original team accepted a position elsewhere. During her exit interview, she told HR, "Linnea's basically running a department by herself. It's unsustainable." The following week, I attended a security protocol meeting where new board member Garrett Templeton proposed removing certain verification steps for executive-level access. "These extra steps are cumbersome," he complained, tapping his expensive pen against the conference table. "I shouldn't need 3-factor authentication to access my own company's client data." With respect, I countered, "Those steps prevent credential exploitation. If someone obtained your login information, are you suggesting I can't keep my own password secure?" Garrett interrupted, eyebrows raised. I'm suggesting that even board members can be targeted by sophisticated phishing attempts, I replied evenly. The system protects both the company and you from potential liability. The room temperature seemed to drop. Devlin cleared his throat and quickly redirected the conversation, but I saw the look exchanged between him and Garrett. 1 week later, I was told to clear my desk by noon. At home, I experienced strange freedom. I slept past 6 a.m. for the first time in years. I repotted neglected houseplants. I reconnected with friends I'd been too busy to see. When industry contacts messaged about technical difficulties at TechVance, I muted the conversations. I applied for positions at other companies. I interviewed at 3 firms who seemed eager to hire me. I contemplated starting my own consultation business. I was moving forward. Then came the midnight call. Linnea, the CEO's voice had none of its usual confidence. We made a terrible mistake. The quarterly client renewals are due in 5 days, and we can't access anything. Nobody understands how the verification sequences work. I sat up in bed, fully awake. You have the documentation I submitted last year. It's insufficient. The system has evolved since then. Because you never approved time for updated documentation, I thought, but didn't say. Garrett tried to implement the changes he wanted. The CEO continued, removing some verification steps. Now nothing works properly. We've lost access to renewal triggers for our top-tier clients. I remained silent, calculating. Those renewal contracts represented approximately $30 million in annual revenue. Without proper notifications and customized renewal terms, most would default to standard agreements or, worse, expire entirely. Competitors would swoop in immediately. We need you back, he said into my silence. Immediately. Name your price. My mind raced through possibilities. Double salary? Triple? A guaranteed executive position? As the silence stretched, he filled it with desperation. Whatever you're thinking, we'll match it. Consulting fees at premium rates? Executive vice president position? Profit sharing? Each offer revealed how deeply they misunderstood me. I had never been motivated primarily by money or titles. I had wanted respect for my expertise, appropriate resources for critical work, and acknowledgement of my warnings about systemic vulnerabilities. I'm not interested in returning as an employee, I finally said. His relief was audible. Of course, consultant rates, triple your previous compensation. That's not what I meant, I replied. I want structural change. What? I'll come in tomorrow morning at 9 with my terms. Have the board ready. I ended the call and opened my laptop. For the next 4 hours, I drafted a comprehensive proposal that addressed not just my personal grievances, but the fundamental flaws in how TechVance managed technical knowledge and treated the people who created and maintained their most valuable systems. Morning found me walking through the TechVance lobby in clothes I'd carefully selected. Not the suit I'd worn to please executives during my employment, but a comfortable outfit that represented who I was now. The security guard did a double take, checking his list before reluctantly printing me a visitor badge. The executive conference room fell silent as I entered. 8 people sat around the table, including the CEO, Garrett, and Devlin, whose complexion paled noticeably when our eyes met. Thank you for coming, the CEO began, his usual commanding tone subdued. We're prepared to offer. I placed my contract on the table, sliding a copy toward each person present. These are my terms. They're non-negotiable. The room remained silent as they read. Garrett was the first to react, his face flushing as he read through the conditions. This is preposterous, he sputtered. You can't possibly expect. I can and I do, I interrupted calmly. You have approximately 4 days before your most valuable client contracts begin expiring. Your alternatives are to accept my terms or lose roughly $30 million in annual revenue while your reputation in the industry collapses. Your choice. The CEO studied me with new eyes, seeing perhaps for the first time the professional he'd discarded without consideration. He lifted his copy of the contract. Let's review these terms point by point, he said. First, you want your entire former team rehired with 50% raises and a dedicated budget for system documentation. Yes, The team you eliminated was essential, not expendable. Their knowledge was valuable, and treating them as disposable assets was both ethically wrong and practically disastrous, as you're now discovering. Second, he continued, you want a mandatory knowledge, sharing protocol requiring at least 3 employees fully trained on every critical system to prevent exactly this situation from happening again. Third, you'll work as an independent consultant for 6 months, training the team while rebuilding the system with proper safeguards. I nodded. At rates listed on page 4. Fourth, we create paid apprenticeships for 10 students from Westridge Community College's tech program each year, building your talent pipeline while giving opportunities to students who might otherwise be overlooked, many of whom have innovative perspectives your current hiring practices miss entirely. And finally, the CEO concluded, we institute a new policy that no employee can be terminated without a comprehensive knowledge transfer plan, which protects both the company and its people. Garrett pushed his copy away. This is extortion. This is consequences. I corrected. I warned about this vulnerability for 3 years through proper channels. Those warnings were ignored. Now you're experiencing exactly what I predicted. The CEO studied the contract, then looked up at the clock on the wall. 4 days until client renewals began expiring. 4 days until their quarter would collapse. We can agree to most of this, but the apprenticeship program is outside our current budget framework, he attempted. Every term is non-negotiable, I repeated. The budget exists. It's currently allocated to executive retreats that could easily be held in office instead of at mountain resorts. Devlin coughed uncomfortably. The CEO's eyebrows rose slightly. He hadn't known about those particular expenditures. The CEO picked up a pen. You could have demanded millions for yourself. This is worth more, I replied simply. If you're enjoying this story so far, like this video and subscribe to our channel. Click the bell icon for notifications because I'm about to reveal exactly how I transformed my revenge from a simple payday into systemic change that altered the entire company culture. The next part shows the most satisfying professional redemption you'll ever hear. As the CEO signed my contract, I felt no triumph, only certainty that this was necessary correction. Everyone watched in stunned silence, including Devlin, whose performance-based bonus would certainly evaporate once the board understood the true cost of his management decisions. You start immediately, the CEO said, sliding the signed document across the table. I start tomorrow, I corrected, taking the contract. Today I'm contacting my former team members. Several have already accepted positions elsewhere, and convincing them to return will require more than money. It will require evidence that the culture has actually changed. I walked out of that meeting with my head high, feeling the weight of 23 stares following me through the glass doors. For 6 years, I had been the quiet problem solver who never demanded appropriate recognition. Now I had their full attention. The next morning arrived with unexpected anxiety. Changing an entrenched corporate culture wouldn't happen through a signed document alone. I prepared for resistance, particularly from middle management who had thrived under the previous system. When I arrived, the CEO personally escorted me to a newly assigned office, ironically, Devlin's former space. He had been temporarily reassigned to oversee operations at a satellite office 3 hours away. We need immediate access to the client renewal system, the CEO said, hovering in the doorway as I set down my bag. First, I need to understand what changes were attempted, I replied, sitting behind the desk. And I'll need temporary administrator credentials. Granted, Garrett will brief you on the modifications. 30 minutes later, Garrett entered without knocking, his expression a mix of resentment and panic. Let's be professional about this, he began, not quite meeting my eyes. I agree completely, I replied. Please explain exactly what changes you implemented to the verification system. His explanation revealed staggering ignorance of basic security principles. He had attempted to remove the multi-factor authentication requirements for executive accounts, not understanding that those verifications were integrated with client data access permissions. His simplification had cascaded through the system, corrupting access pathways throughout the database. Can you fix it? He finally asked. Yes, but first, I need to contact the former team members you'll be rehiring. Can't that wait until after? No, I interrupted. The client system will require multiple people working simultaneously to restore functionality before the renewal deadline. I'm not doing this alone again. He struggled visibly with this power reversal, but ultimately nodded. HR is preparing offer letters. Not offer letters, contracts matching the terms I specified, including formal apologies and public recognition of their unfair terminations. Garrett's face tightened. You can't seriously expect. I expect exactly what's in my contract, which you and the board signed yesterday. Over the next 48 hours, I contacted all 5 former team members. 3 had already accepted positions elsewhere but agreed to provide limited consultation. The remaining 2, Adira and Pascal, agreed to return under the new terms. I never thought I'd walk back through these doors. Adira admitted when she arrived the following morning. Are you sure this isn't just temporary desperation that will revert once the crisis passes? That's why everything is in writing, I assured her, and why I'm only staying 6 months. Long enough to rebuild properly, not long enough to become indispensable again. Together with Pascal, we began emergency repairs to the system while simultaneously documenting everything. The damage was extensive. In just 3 weeks without proper maintenance, critical automated processes had failed, data integrity checks had been bypassed, and several security protocols had degraded. By day 4, we had restored basic functionality to the client renewal system, allowing the most urgent contracts to process. The CEO personally delivered coffee to our workspace at 2 a.m. as we finalized the fixes. I underestimated you, he admitted quietly, while Pascal was in the break room. Not just your technical abilities, but your importance to this company's operations. You underestimated everyone on this team, I corrected, and you rewarded the wrong behaviors. Devlin received bonuses for cutting costs while I received reprimands for requesting necessary resources. He nodded slowly. That's changing. The board approved your full proposal this morning, including the apprenticeship program. Good. Week 3 of my contract includes a full audit of executive access to sensitive systems. I'd suggest preparing your team for that conversation. His expression shifted to concern, but he didn't argue. As the immediate crisis subsided, we began the more substantive work of rebuilding the entire client architecture with proper documentation and training protocols. I insisted that knowledge-sharing sessions be incorporated into everyone's weekly schedule, with executives required to attend quarterly reviews of critical systems. Garrett avoided me for weeks until the first executive security training session, which I personally conducted. His expression remained stony as I explained the new verification requirements. These seem unnecessarily complicated, he commented, echoing his original complaint. Each verification step exists for a specific reason, I responded, displaying the presentation I'd prepared. Let me show you exactly what happened at Ridgeline Technologies last year, when their CEO insisted on simplified access. The subsequent explanation of how their competitor had lost $12 million in business and faced 3 lawsuits after a security breach silenced further objections. By month 3, the changes were taking root. The 2 team members who had returned brought unique perspectives from their brief experiences at other companies. Pascal implemented improved backup protocols, while Adira redesigned the user interface to make security compliance more intuitive. The most significant change came when we welcomed the first group of apprentices from Westridge Community College. 10 students, diverse in background and perspective, brought fresh energy and questions that challenged our assumptions. Why does this process require 5 separate approvals? Asked Yasmina, a second-year student with remarkable analytical skills. Historical reasons, Pascal started to explain. That's not a good enough answer, I interrupted. Yasmina's right to question it. Let's map the entire process and eliminate unnecessary steps. The apprentices became unexpected catalysts for improvement, their outside perspective highlighting inefficiencies we had normalized. Within weeks, they were contributing meaningful code and design improvements. One morning in my 4th month, I arrived to find Devlin waiting beside my office door. His reassignment had apparently ended. I've been asked to coordinate with you on the knowledge transfer documentation, he said, His usual confidence dimmed. Coordinate, not supervise, I clarified. Yes, that's my understanding. His discomfort was evident. I've been told to offer any assistance you require. Working with Devlin revealed a man struggling to understand his failures. He had spent years climbing the corporate ladder through relationship management rather than technical expertise. Now, that approach was explicitly devalued under the new system I had designed. I didn't know, he admitted during our third documentation session, about the security implications of the cuts, about how much work you were handling alone. You didn't want to know, I corrected. The information was available in every quarterly report I submitted. He didn't argue. The most satisfying moment came during month 5, when the CEO requested that I present our progress to the board. Standing before the same people who had authorized my termination without question, I detailed the transformed architecture and new operational protocols. The system now requires at least 3 trained administrators for any critical function, I explained. No single person, including me, can become indispensable again. Knowledge is systematically shared and documented. And the apprenticeship program costs? One board member asked. Have been offset by improved efficiency and reduced emergency response needs, I completed. Additionally, we've identified 2 exceptional apprentices we recommend hiring immediately upon their graduation next month. That seems premature, Garrett objected. They lack experience. They lack bad habits, I countered. And they've demonstrated exceptional problem-solving skills. The detailed assessment is in your packets, including the improvements they've already contributed. The board approved both hires. As my 6-month contract neared completion, the transformation was evident throughout the company. The knowledge-sharing protocols had expanded beyond my team to other departments. The documentation system we developed became a model for all technical projects. Most importantly, the culture had shifted from rewarding those who hoarded information to celebrating those who shared expertise. During my final week, the CEO requested a private meeting. We'd like to offer you a permanent position, he said, Chief Technical Officer, reporting directly to me. The offer was tempting. More influence, more ability to drive change, substantially higher compensation. But I had discovered something important about myself during these 6 months. I appreciate the offer, I replied, but I've decided to launch my own consulting firm. His disappointment was visible. We can't match what you'd make as a consultant? This isn't about money, it's about impact. The changes we've implemented here need to happen across the industry. Too many companies treat technical knowledge as disposable until crisis strikes. And if we wanted to be your first client, you'd need to accept that I'd be helping your competitors implement similar changes, I answered honestly. He considered this. Because better security practices benefit everyone. Exactly. On my final day, the team organized a gathering that spread beyond our department. People from throughout the company came to express appreciation, including several executives who had initially resisted the changes. Pascal presented me with a gift from the team, a custom artwork featuring a quote from my first knowledge-sharing presentation. Security through obscurity isn't security at all. As I prepared to leave, Yasmina, now a junior developer thanks to her exceptional work during the apprenticeship, asked the question many were thinking. Do you regret how things happened? Being fired, I mean. I considered carefully before answering. If they hadn't fired me, I would still be overworked, undervalued, and enabling dysfunctional practices. Sometimes being pushed out is exactly what you need to recognize your true worth. The following Monday, I launched Arroyo Consulting with 3 core principles: knowledge democratization, ethical technology development, and inclusive expertise cultivation. Within 6 months, we had 9 clients, including 2 of TechVance's competitors. Within a year, we employed 22 consultants, including 5 from the apprenticeship program I had established. The true satisfaction came 18 months after my termination, when an industry publication ran a feature on companies leading in technical resilience. TechVance was highlighted for its innovative knowledge, sharing protocols and apprenticeship program, now expanded to 20 positions annually. The article included an interview with Adira, now heading the department, who credited the transformation to a crisis that forced us to recognize that technical knowledge should never be concentrated in individuals, but embedded in systems and teams. My revenge wasn't humiliating those who had undervalued me. It wasn't extracting maximum payment for my expertise during their moment of crisis. My revenge was transforming a broken system that devalued technical expertise into one that celebrated knowledge sharing and inclusive development. When the journalist contacted me for comment about my role in the transformation, I simply said, "True value isn't in what you know, but in how you ensure that knowledge serves something larger than yourself." 3 years after being told to clear my desk by noon, I delivered the keynote address at the National Technical Leadership Conference, where TechVance received an award for its apprenticeship program, now the industry standard. Sitting in the audience were the CEO, Adira, Pascal, and 28 former apprentices, now valued professionals. Garrett was notably absent, having left for a traditional firm that still believed in hierarchical knowledge structures. Devlin, surprisingly, had transformed as well, becoming an advocate for documentation and knowledge transfer protocols in his new role as regional director. The CEO approached me at the reception afterward. "You could have destroyed us," he said quietly. "Instead, you made us better. That wasn't revenge. It was redemption." "Not just redemption," I corrected. "Evolution. The technical industry can't survive with outdated models that treat knowledge workers as interchangeable and disposable." "I've learned that lesson," he acknowledged. "Though it was an expensive education. The most valuable lessons usually are." If this story resonated with you, please share your own experience in the comments below. Have you ever been underestimated at work only to prove your true value later? Or have you transformed a negative professional experience into something positive? Your story might inspire someone else facing similar challenges. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories about professional redemption and workplace transformation, because sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't destruction, but creation of something better than what existed before.